Welcome back to this part 2 episode of Bits and Booze, where we're going through Git mailing list workflow with Patrick Steinhardt of GitLab and Git core contributor. We saw how to get patches out. Now let's see how to get some work in. We're halfway through a bottle of whiskey now, so. What I'd like to talk about a little bit is review, right?
Yes.
So now you open up Mutt, somebody's sent a patch series, you're interested in the series. I want to go through maybe two quick things. You've said, and I think a lot of other people sort of on mailing list things, that you don't pull down every patch and try it out, right? Like the maintainer does, maybe if you're really interested in it or you want to see kind of how they implement it or something. But like for the most part, the review is really kind of similar to GitHub or GitLab, where you're looking at the code and you're commenting on the code, right? So how does that happen in a mailing list workflow?
I mean, the first thing is that it's kind of funny that once I open the mailbox, the first mail that pops into the list is yours.
I want to do a Git meetup in the Bay Area, you know?
Fair enough.
Is it formatted correctly? Like, did I mess this up? No, I did a great job.
It looks awesome.
I did a great job. It looks like I do this all the time. It's interesting, right? Because this Git meetup, we're talking about like conversations, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a blog, like in a way, right? Of saying like, I have this idea, what do you think about it? It has nothing to do with code. It has to do with the community, right? Or like, there's this outreachy stuff that I can see here, which is like an interny sort of student thing, right?
It's sponsored by the SFC, which is also the mother project, or like basically the host of, or the financial host of Git.
So there's conversations around the project, right? But then there's also PRs, or there's also this concept of sending code and doing code review, right? And it's interleaved in this way that anybody can use whatever client that they want to in order to look at this, to review stuff. And so let's choose a patch series, right? And it's also nice because it's threaded, right? So you can see these nice threads and say, I don't care about this thread. So like one of the cool things, and I heard this brought up in the context of the Linux stuff as well, is that if you go to GitHub or GitLab and there's a URL for a pull request, you close it or you leave it open, right? And for everybody, it's closed or it's left open. It's a global state for this. For the mailing list, it's very personal. So you can say, I don't care about this thread, and you can essentially mute the thread, right? And never see it or read about it again. It's like, this has nothing to do with me, so you close it. It's like closed for you and not for everybody in the community.
And that is a very important thing. I mean, you can see this here at the bottom of this window where I've got this new count, new 81 emails. This is basically the to-do list for myself. Like I've still got 81 emails to review right now. And all the other ones where I was like, yeah, I don't really have a lot of context, or well, maybe even I don't care. And I just like mark them as read.
And it's also offline, right? Like you could do this, you could essentially do all of this review on an airplane and then write all these emails and then connect and then, have SMTP sort of send them all out, right? At the end of the thing.
And that is very important to me because, I mean, right now I'm offline, so I don't really have much of a choice compared to doing it online. And also, like, I tend to queue a whole lot of emails in my outbox, which I don't immediately send out, but I only send them out once I've reviewed, for example, the whole patch series or like multiple patch series in succession. So that I can basically batch them. And also when I, for example, reviewed the first patch and saw something that didn't make sense, but that was rectified in a subsequent patch, then I can go back to the first email that I wrote and fix it up, for example.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's see. Like this is the equivalent of kind of going to a PR or something and like going to the unified diff and clicking on a line and saying, I don't like the way you did this. Like, how does that work in the mailing list world?
I've picked a patch series from myself, mostly because I'm familiar with it. One of the things that I'm currently working on is to modernize the build system in the Git ecosystem right now. And you can see, like, first one that is kind of interesting is that it's got an RFC tag. This basically means
is that a command line option in the patch?
Yes, you can say --RFC in Git format patch, and then we'll add this RFC tag in front of it. But RFC in this context stands for request for comments, because it is a patch series that is still rather rough, and I'm basically trying to figure out what the project as a whole actually wants. So this is nothing where I'm going like, yeah, it's certain that this patch series will eventually go in, but it's like exploring the options that we currently have. So this patch series here has 21 different patches, and you can see that there's already some kind of comments on it.
So you've sent this series for requests for comments. Some people have commented, like we can see in here. What does that look like?
So this is basically how it looks like. You see that Like, let's first have a look at the patch, the actual patch. You can see that this is like, again, having like some kind of commit message where I'm going through some things. Also like the actual change itself, which is only like a single line change. But that person then goes here, like the first thing that they notice is that there's a typo in my commit message, which they
and then they
basically
put
correct.
the Vim, the nerdiest way of saying, here's how to respell this.
Just to be even nerdier, it's not Vim, but it's SED syntax.
Oh, it is said. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, then they also go on to say that some things aren't really clear and that those should probably be iterated on in the commit message.
Explain to the audience what top posting is and that this is not happening here.
So top posting is the thing that, for example, Gmail does by default. So whenever you write an email, I can just like demonstrate it real fast. Like top posting is when you write on top of the mail.
And
so,
why is that bad? Like why do
something.
mailing list people hate this?
It's because of ordering. Like, what is the context? When you read something or when you talk about something and quote something else, then you first want to know about the context. By top posting, you don't have any clue at all about what the context is because you see hello something. Yeah, so who are you referring to? What is the context of this patch? I don't know. And also, it doesn't really allow you to actually like quote specific parts of that email that you're responding to.
If you get a thing in Gmail and you hit reply, it kind of puts the whole context of the email in it, but it puts it under like a little 3-dot thing you have to expand and go into if you want to, right? And so it encourages you to top post.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's actually configurable in Gmail, but it still does encourage you by default to do that. Okay. You can see over here that the replies that Eric Sunshine in this context wrote to my email are like inline. They directly quote the previous parts to which that reply actually applies to. And that makes it way easier to see what they're currently talking about. And that wouldn't really be possible if you like just top post it.
This is replying to your comments. Can we see something where they're replying to code? Because I feel like this is a little closer to kind of what, you know, pull request type stuff does, right? It's like, okay, here's some code that you're saying I want to introduce this diff. Yeah. I want to comment on just this section of it, right?
Yeah, sure. This here is one of the diffs that I wrote in another patch, and Eric Sunshine again replies to this email. And like, I mean, you can first see that he's also commenting on the commit message that I wrote to make sure that it maybe is worded better. But he also replies to the actual code that I've wrote, where he's going like, yeah, maybe we should fix this a little bit differently because the current way is kind of weird, and the next person who is coming around will probably like try to fix it up again because it doesn't conform to our current coding guidelines in the Git project.
We've commented on stuff. You are reading all of these sort of comments on your patches, on the work that you've done. Now you want to fix sort of what you want to incorporate some of this and then re-roll up the series, right?
Yes.
In a branch-based thing, if you want to fix something, you essentially do a new commit most of the time, and you just say, okay, I fixed some stuff, and you commit and you push it because it updates the unified diff, and that's what people care about. Yeah. But you don't review that part generally, right? Like, because it's not commit-based. But in a mailing list, that's not how you do it. Yes. You re-roll the series, right? And I think the concept of re-rolling a series is news to most people, especially people that have grown up on forges like GitHub and GitLab, right? Where review is based on a branch. So when review is based on a commit and you get review, you fix up the commits and you re-roll the series with interactive rebase or whatever. You start out with a 10 patch series. You get like wave after wave of review. And at the end of the day, you still have a 10 patch series, right? It's still 10 commits. It's just 10 better commits than it was, right? With great commit messages. And blame and bisect and everything come up nicely. You get this review. Now you want to fix up your series. How does that look? How do you send a sort of second series to the list?
So the first thing that you've mentioned is interactive rebases, and I've already said that I'm using those quite a lot because it's extremely powerful to iterate on your patch series. It allows you to amend specific commits, it allows you to reorder commits if the new order makes more sense, for example. It also allows you to amend commit messages and so on. And so that is the first thing that I would actually be doing. So I would do a git rebase-i on ref table, replace string with base, which was still the base commit of the series that I'm currently working on. Yeah. So the first one. And that allows me to, for example, or first I get an instruction sheet, so-called. which allows me to say which action do I want to perform in each of those commits.
I'm not gonna lie, I have not done this in a while. There are so many more interactive rebase commands than I remember there being. What is all this other, like exec, break, drop, label? I don't know. Actually, I wrote a book on this and I don't know any of this stuff. Maybe I need to do a new version.
So the label, reset, merge stuff and so on is basically to allow us to also rebase merges, which has been something that was not implemented very well in the past. And it basically was like streamlining the patch series that you had, if you had merges in it, to only have a single line of commits without any merges at all anymore. But if you nowadays say, I think it is dash rebase merges, if I'm not 100% mistaken here, but that would also use those other commands to create specific branches in that rebase sheet. So you would say, for example, over here, you first only have a couple of picks, and then it would say you reset to the first commit, reset to first, and then you would pick another couple of commits. And you can also like label stuff so that you can say label first, then you do a reset first, and it basically goes back to that first label. And now you can apply another set of commands over here, or another set of commits.
Boy, I did not know any of this. You're teaching me a lot about interactive rebase right now.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend to actually use that.
I want to have this be practical. So you get the review from the mailing list. You're like, okay, I need to fix this. I want to fix this. This is a good point.
Yes.
And so you edit the code.
Yes.
How do you then go and say, this code should be integrated into, line set, like the commit 7, right, down. And this one should be integrated into commit 3 or something like that?
It kind of depends. Like in some cases, I just create a fix-up commit, and that's what I would do with saying git commit -fixup. And with the -fixup command, you can basically say which commits do I want to fix up. Right. So I say head and then tilde 7, for example, to fix up the 7th commit from now, from the current head. Yeah. But that is getting a little bit unwieldy at times, and in many cases, the reviews only say like, yeah, maybe change that single line. And the way I would do that is to do an interactive rebase. Then I go to that specific commit. I change from pick to edit.
Oh, you do it this way. Interesting. Okay.
And then I save it. And now I'm basically at that commit.
Okay, so it checks that, like it rewinds to that point and says, okay, pretend that you were here, and you fix it and you amend that commit, and then it rebases the rest of the things.
Right. Now I can fix up the commit message by saying git commit -amend, and then I say something whiskey. And I can also like do code changes in here if I want to. I can amend the readme to say something whiskey. And then I also amend that to the previous commit, which is
too much whiskey.
Yep, too much whiskey, of course. So I've now amended that commit, and I'm going to fix up some typos over here so that it's looking a little bit better.
And then you rebase continue or something?
Again, exactly. Yeah. So I now continue, and now I've rebased my branch.
Okay.
So that
is this how you tend to do it? Like when you get feedback from people, is you go and you edit a thing. You're like, I'm going to edit this commit. I'm going to edit this commit, and it's
most of the time, yes.
It's commit by commit rather than I'm going to do all these things and then figure out where they go.
Yeah, it's typically like that because, I mean, as I said, this is one of the things about a mailing list-based workflow. Like the comments are on that exact commit that have introduced
that's a good point.
Code that was not like up to par, for example. Okay. And so I can just like go back and
look at the
just
thread,
edit that one.
And then edit all those things.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that makes it way easier.
It's nice in a way to like split it up. Like I didn't even really think about that. Okay, like you've gone through, you've had 10 commits, you've edited 5 or whatever, right? Now I have a new, better series of 10. How do you send that out?
So the first thing is I again use git format patch, and this time around with -v2, which is what we've already been talking about. So now you can see that the patches that are generated all have this v2-something prefix. And if you have a look at, for example, the first one, you can also see that over here in the subject, we actually have patched v2.
Right.
Now, there's still a few things that you actually have to keep in mind. Like the first thing is that you also want this thread connected to the original thread that you had, so that they're not like two separate threads on the mailing list, because this makes it way easier for me as a reviewer to connect those two things with each other.
But it's not threaded underneath that. Like what does that look like?
Well, yes, it is.
It is?
Yes. I can show that. Like, give me 1 second.
Sorry. Oopsie doopsie.
Not going to show my personal emails. So we've been typing is not that easy anymore. So here we've got this first patch, and then you've also got like the v2, which is actually
oh, it is. Yeah. Okay. All right.
underneath it.
Cool,
so it is connected to the original thread that I've wrote.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm doing this is by saying git format patch -- in reply to. And here you would paste in the message ID of the original thread, of the original cover letter, which is a little bit of a pain.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it's like, what it was, but I just say like XXX, something like that. And that would also, if we have a look at the cover letter, for example, you would say that it now has this in reply to header, which connects it to the original thread where you had your first version. Right now, you only see like, okay, we still have a diff.
Right.
But you don't know what has changed between the two different versions.
Right.
And that is actually quite important because you want to know what has changed. Like, was the feedback that
V1
I
to
gave,
V2. Yeah.
yes, what the feedback that I gave on the first version of the patch series, was it actually addressed? And what you can do in this context is that you can say what was it called? Range-diff. Right. And that basically gives you a diff between...
option to format patch.
Yes, it is.
I'm curious. I actually have no idea what's happening right now. I feel like you're missing or you have too many dots there.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Give me a second though. Replace triple base.
Oh Jesus. Okay, this is
V1.
This is becoming a long.
Okay, I think it's correct now. Oh, typo. And now you can see that we've actually got a range diff over here. What? Which is the range diff against V1. You can see over here, all those patches didn't change at all because you can see that over here there was an equal sign.
It range diffs the commit message too.
Yes. It's awesome, right?
I did not know this.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
This here is the only commit that has changed. And we can actually see like the commit message has changed with something whiskey. And we can see also that the readme.md file has changed with something whiskey. Right. And that really allows you to have...
Is this where you do this when you send it? Oh,
yes.
Wow. Okay.
And that's awesome.
So it's a cover letter that's like, here's the difference between the last version in case you want to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then you can then go and kind of cut that out and say, okay, this is a thing that is interesting. Or you can go into because every other thing is the full patch, right? It's the new, It's the new full patch.
Like, let me show you an example that is a little bit more involved than that, which is also one of my own patch series. Because the range diff is actually really awesome. It not only realizes when some commits have changed, but it also, for example, allows to see when... Give me a second. Like over here, you can see this one is new. That didn't exist before. Previously, dashes, now we have a new patch.
That's interesting.
You can also see other things like there's some more patches over here. Previously, it was patch number 6. Now it's patch number 9. And that actually realizes that you've reordered the patches compared to the previous version. So it's really, really powerful over here, like previously patch 8, now it's patch 10, patch 9, 11, and so on. And that is such a blessing when you actually work on the mailing list and have patch-by-patch reviews, because it allows you to see, like, did my review actually get applied to that specific patch?
So you have this patch series. How do we make them commits?
I type uppercase P and I'm done.
Well, that's not
so
helpful.
Yeah, that's not helpful at all.
What does that mean?
But what that means is basically that I'm using git am-3, where git am takes as input like the mail that I've just highlighted right now, and applies it to my working tree. Like, I've got a mud macro defined that basically says that. So if I now go back into my working tree, you can see it's applied.
If you had a huge open source project of these workflows, which would you prefer to use, right? Would you prefer to use the sort of branch-based pull request, merge request type workflow? Or would you prefer to use a mailing list-based workflow?
Are we speaking hypothetical?
We are.
Both.
What? That can't be, that's the only non-option.
It is an option because there is no reason why you shouldn't have both at the same point in time. You can have a nice web UI, but you can also send those emails automatically to everybody's inboxes who's interested. And you can still reply to those emails, and those will also automatically show up in the web UI. So basically, everybody can pick his own workflow and choose how they want to do it.
So you want a commit-based sort of review process.
Yes.
That has a web interface or something, right? Like,
well, I mean,
but that doesn't exist now.
I certainly don't care for the web-based interface, but other people do. I know that. I only care about the mailing list. So a person that is more in favor of a mailing list can pick the mailing list. A person that is more in favor of the web UI can pick the web UI. So that would be my own personal goal.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for being my guest and for teaching me so much about the mailing list-based workflow, about Git. I learned a fantastic amount, an embarrassing amount. Thank you, GitLab, for letting you come over and drink with me. You didn't tell them, did you?
I did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Of course I did. I mean, what do you expect?